Evidence-based astrology. Evidence-based astrology? Evidence-based astrology. Allow me to explain what's going on here. Vibrational astrology, or evidence-based astrology, is the new kid on the block in the astrological realm. And it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of growth, and a lot of, talk. Those of us out there who hate bullshit and really like, things that have some consistency, like scientific approaches and like not using your intuition all the time with astrology, are looking for data. The problem with collecting data with traditional types of astrology, even modern evolutionary tropical Western astrology, is that it's really hard to isolate things to test. And that's where I've gotten a lot of criticism from naysayers, science-based people, even though I'm a science-based person and see that there is a lot of correlation here with a lot of things. The criticism comes from like, how are you able to measure whether or not this is due to X factor or X factor, because you're looking at so many of them at the same time. The other side of this criticism is most astrologers don't even collect data. And the second part of this argument is, how are you testing against other theories? Like, so you can say it's due to this, like every time this shows up, you see this placement. But what about when that comes up and you're not seeing that placement? That's like you have to test against your theory and test against those variables as well. Really hard thing to do with the way astrology is observed, talked about, measured, as it's normally done. Well, let's talk about what the vibrational astrology theory is based on, and then we can get into how they're testing it and why it's pretty revolutionary. So often when we talk about astrology, we're talking about your energy, zodiac energy, Aries energy, Libra energy, Taurus energy. What the fuck does that mean? Or you could say it's the vibe. What is vibe short for? Vibration. Oh my god. Vibration equals energy. That's what energy kind of is. It's the movement of things, right? And vibration is a waveform, right? It literally makes like sine waves, cosine waves. We're literally getting into physics here. What's another word for vibrations? Harmonics. The most common place you see harmonics talked about is in music. Harmonics is also where the word harmony comes from. The other word for vibration and harmonics is frequency. Really all these terms are talking about is like how frequent or often something is oscillating. That's all this is oscillation. You can graph oscillations on a sine wave, right? The other way that you can graph frequencies is on a circle. You see how we're getting into astrology now? So why are frequencies and harmonics and vibrations important? Well, physicists often talk about nature itself, because if everything is made up of energy, and energy is just a waveform, a frequency, a vibration, a harmonic, everything is made up of harmonics. Everything is made up of waveforms. And as they say in metaphysics and Hermeticism, as above, so below. Everything is existing in harmony, as above, so below. That's what that means. The earth and the heavens harmonize with one another. They are reflections of one another, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. Everything is happening in a cycle, which is what this is. Cycle is another word we could use for frequency, or harmonics, which is why we can graph a waveform on a circle, a cycle. You see what I'm getting at here? It's all related. Here we have a random birth chart. The white symbols on the outside of the circle are the planets. Don't worry about the rest of the shit in here. We know that all of these planets move around the circle at different rates. You could call the rate literally a frequency. So the moon moves at a higher frequency than Jupiter does, because the moon moves faster, a lot faster than Jupiter. Now we're going to look at the crazy lines inside the circle, in addition to the white symbols on the outside of the circle. This is where we start talking about vibrational astrology itself. So you know how in music, whenever you play two notes that are the same note at different octaves, or the same note on different instruments, or two voices are singing the exact same note, they're not in harmony, they're just playing the same exact frequency. That is what a conjunction is. A conjunction in astrology is when two planets are in the same spot. So you can see in this chart right here that Uranus and Pluto are in the same spot. Not exactly the same, but in astrology we take a certain degree of error. That degree of error is called an orb, but we're not going to get into that. Same thing with the north node and the midheaven up here. These two placements are in a conjunction. They're playing the same note, same frequency, same vibration, okay? I guess you could call the degree of error or the orb like two people singing the same note, but one of them's slightly out of tune. Now, when you're looking at an opposition, that is one of these red lines that's running right through the middle of the chart, like across. When 2 points are across from each other, that's called an opposition. That is like if people were playing one note, like a C, and then playing whatever note is like halfway up the scale. Be using a chromatic scale for this because there are 12 chromatic notes in the Western music theory. Whatever note is 6 chromatic notes up from middle C, like say on a piano, that's what an opposition in theory sounds like. By the way, a conjunction is considered the first harmonic, right? Because they're playing the same note. An opposition is called the second harmonic. It's because those two positions divide the circle into 2 hemispheres, or there's 2 points that can make an opposition. So like, you get what I was saying. It divides the chart in half. Now, trines, you can have 3 placements making up a trine. That is called the third harmonic. Now you can see a trine in this chart. The blue lines that are making the triangle, that's a trine. A grand trine in this case. But one of those lines is called a trine, and that's considered the third. So a square would be the fourth harmonic, which is one of these red lines that's going like over the side. It's half of an opposition. You can do this in degrees too, right? So a square is 90 degrees. That divides the chart into 4 pieces. So you can have 4 placements all making squares to each other, making a grand cross, which is almost happening in this chart, but not quite. You can keep dividing the chart into higher and higher vibrations, right? You can go to the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, all on up, right? So I think the last and kind of final piece of vibrational astrology that you gotta understand to know what's going on conceptually is about absolute degrees. Absolute degrees is a really important thing to know about in astrology because other theories use this. All it is that you don't use the signs, you basically erase the signs, and then you make the entire chart like a full 360 degrees. So at the end of Aries, you wouldn't stop at 30 degrees. Taurus would end at 60 degrees, Gemini would end at 90 degrees, Cancer would end at 120 degrees, and so on. So absolute zero in astrology is at 0 degrees Aries. So let's say that your Mars was at 16 degrees of Virgo. That would actually be 166 degrees in absolute degrees if my math is correct. Basically what they do in vibrational astrology is calculating those absolute degrees of all of your placements. And then each time you go up a harmonic, so going from the first harmonic of your birth chart is just your regular birth chart. The second harmonic of your birth chart is all of the absolute degrees in your chart times 2. How can you tell? Well, if you look here, here's an easy spot to look at, is if anything is in Aries for you, or if anything is sitting in Libra or Virgo, especially the beginning of Libra or the end of Virgo. If you multiply any placements in the Aries department times 2, it's not gonna move up very much if you add it to itself, right? So 0 degrees Aries, anything at 0 degrees Aries is gonna stay at 0 degrees Aries. And then anything you multiply times 2 at the opposite point is gonna flip. It's gonna flip sides every time you go up 1 harmonic. I have the perfect placement to test this theory. I have a Venus at 29 degrees Virgo. Let's check the second vibration. Oh look, it flipped over to Pisces, almost at 0 degrees Aries. What do harmonic charts allow you to do? They allow you to isolate the aspects, the harmonics between your planets. So anything that's in opposition in your first harmonic is going to be a conjunction in your second harmonic. Math works out. They've been doing it a while. You can observe it. I promise that's how it works. I might have to make another video about this to explain like why that's cool, why that's important, what it does, how to use it. But thank you for staying to the end if you made it.